Now this is the BenQ Mobiuz EX2710U. Now this thing is built from the ground up for high resolution and high frame rate gaming. With the 4K 144Hz panel, it is a gamer's paradise. But it doesn't end there. You get 98% of DCI-P3 coverage, which also makes this thing great for photo and video editing. Now this monitor is impressive, but it also comes with a very impressive price tag. $800 or over 60,000 rupees here in India. Now BenQ sent me a review unit, so let's go over it and find out whether you should buy it. Now the unboxing experience is nothing fancy. You get a 2-layer setup with accessories in one and the monitor in another. And talking about the accessories, you get an HDMI 2.1, a DisplayPort 1.4a for a high refresh rate 4K output, and a heavy duty stand, a power brick, some paperwork and USB cable, and a media control remote. Now this thing is really impressive. I've never seen one bundled with a monitor before. Now the BenQ Mobiuz monitor packs a plush rear I/O. You get 2 HDMI 2.1s and 1 DisplayPort in terms of video, and add to that you get 3 USB Type A ports and 1 USB Type B. This is great for any monitor, and you can pair like up to 2 gaming consoles, your PlayStation and your Xbox, and even your gaming PC. Now these USB ports can be used to charge up your mice, your keyboards, or any other accessories that you are using. Now you see this micro B USB port over here, right? That can be used to power the microphone that is built into this monitor. Yeah, it comes with a microphone built in. How cool is that? Overall, connectivity wise, this monitor is really well done, and I think it deserves some brownie points for the huge number of USB ports. Now setting up this monitor is a breeze. You don't need any screws if you're using the stock monitor arm, and this is really cool. Just take the monitor arm, line it up, and just slap it there, and it just stays like that. You don't need any other work. I mean, things like this really make this $800 product worth it. Now you can also buy a wall mount directly from BenQ. It is sold as an accessory, but I mean, why would you do that? This monitor comes with a 100 by 100 standard VESA mount. So just go out there in the market and choose any one from the thousands of models available. Overall, in my testing, this has been the easiest monitor to set up, at least if you're using the stock monitor arm like I did. So it really gets a huge thumbs up for this. Now this is a pricey product, so BenQ has not cut corners. This monitor is built extremely well. It easily ranks among the monitors that have the highest build quality I've ever tested, so that's that. Now I have to mention that this panel is slightly thicker than your traditional gaming monitor, and now this is because all of the tech that it packs and all of the cooling that tech requires. So I mean, it's not really an issue, but to be honest, this duotone design actually makes it look cooler than other thinner monitors out in the market. That's just me, your opinions may be different. Now, there is not a lot to do on the front of a monitor. It's just a basic big video panel. So BenQ turned to the back, and I mean, just look at this monitor. It really looks like something straight out of the future, out of a Cyberpunk 2077 video game. Now this thing also comes with RGB LEDs in the back. How cool is that? Now BenQ is not the first company who has brought RGB to gaming monitors. Other companies like LG and Samsung have also done this. But I mean, BenQ's implementation really looks cool. Okay, now let's just talk about the monitor arm. Like, this is built really well, and it also doesn't take up a lot of space on your desk. It looks futuristic and stylish, so it will really make this monitor just pop up if you pair it with your gaming setup. Now I really recommend you use this monitor arm because it is built well, it looks good, and it also gets the job done extremely well. In terms of features, the monitor arm is height adjustable. You can swivel the monitor with this, and you can also rotate the panel. But what you cannot do is turn the monitor by 90 degrees, and that makes sense because this monitor's built-in speakers are actually located in the bottom, in this huge chin over here. So if you turn the monitor panel by 90 degrees, in that case the speakers will just fire from the sides and it might not sound as good. So BenQ did this intentionally. Now I like the build quality of the monitor, but it does wobble a bit while typing. I really don't expect such an expensive monitor to have wobble issues, so it kind of felt underwhelming to me. Okay, so now let's talk about the cream of what you're paying for. The display. The monitor's resolution is your standard UHD 3840 by 2160. It goes up to 144 Hz, which is a really high number, especially if you're gaming at resolutions like 4K. It's IPS LCD, so in terms of gaming and stuff, this thing is really dope and you won't face any problems at all. Now this monitor comes with support for Display HDR 600, which is a step above Display HDR 400, which I've seen bundled with many budget and mid-range monitors. The output picture is very detailed, the colors are good, and I mean, just look at the clarity. This is a gamer's heaven. Plus with HDR turned on, your gaming and movie watching experience just goes to the next level. Now the monitor also pairs an insane contrast ratio of 1000 to 1, so you won't have any problems in terms of darkness and brightness and all of that stuff. Now 1000 by 1 contrast ratios are pretty standard for monitors at this price point, and the BenQ doesn't do anything extra. Now BenQ has advertised a viewing angle of 170 degrees for this monitor, and when viewed at angles it actually doesn't look all that bad. But to be honest, if you're viewing it from the front, it looks the best, and when you're viewing it from the side, the image just looks a bit washed out, and if you have like windows in the background, the glare can be really bad. Now I mean, if you're gaming, you will be viewing the monitor from straight up, so this won't necessarily be an issue, but if you're using this as a secondary monitor in your setup, it might be a little bit of a problem. Now the monitor has a bit of backlight bleeding, which is not expected from an $800 ultra tier monitor, but hey, this is IPS LCD, it's not OLED. And LCD is LCD and it will have backlight bleeding problems, so I just can't blame BenQ straight out of the blue for this. Now this monitor bundles support for AMD FreeSync Premium Pro, so you won't have any problems if your game is not rendering at 144 FPS. Now generally 4K is a pretty demanding resolution. I tested this monitor with the RX 7900 XTX, which is a really high-end video card. Even that GPU cannot render all games at 144 FPS constantly. So in that case, FreeSync really comes in handy to eliminate all of that screen tear issues, and I had no single such smoothness related or screen tear related issue while gaming on this monitor. FreeSync Premium Pro really does its job very well. Now this monitor also comes with anti-glare coating, so if it is facing windows and direct sunlight, you won't have any problems working, but in my testing, it doesn't work all that good. Now if you're watching dark content, the glare can get pretty disturbing. Other than that, it's pretty manageable. Now if you're someone like me who spends a lot of time in front of computer monitors, you would like good eye care technologies. BenQ has got you covered in that. It's got a lot of technologies like BI, which is brightness intelligence, and even a blue light filter which is named MBook for some reason, which helps you prevent eye fatigue. Now BI or brightness intelligence works by intelligently dimming or brightening the monitor depending on your ambient lighting. This is a really cool feature and more monitors should implement this. However, do note that BI does not work with all modes. If you're using the monitor with HDR turned on, let's say for an example, you cannot use BI. Okay, now let's talk about gaming on the BenQ Mobiuz EX2710U. Now gaming on this thing is super. It's 4K, it's high refresh rate, so you're covered in that regard. Plus you also have HDR, which really pushes the experience to a whole new level. Now this monitor packs the full 48 gigabit per second bandwidth of HDMI 2.1 ports. Now this means that no detail and clarity is lost due to the cables or the connectors, and you are getting the full capabilities of your new GPU or PlayStation consoles. Now do know that Xbox has a DSC mode, which kind of doesn't require this full bandwidth to provide good quality images, but other consoles and specifically PC doesn't have that. Now what does that mean? That means that you are getting the full 444 uncompressed format of images on this monitor. Now what other cheap 4K panels do is that they use a compressed format like 422 or 420, which means you are losing some quality in transmission. Now all of this makes this monitor one of the best choices for 4K gaming out there, and trust me, you will be blown away with the experience. Now let's talk about HDR. Now this monitor comes with a ton of HDR modes. You have the standard display HDR, which is your display HDR 600. Other than that, you also get a custom game HDRI and a cinema HDRI. Now all of these HDR modes, game and cinema, are actually different color tunings. Game pushes your reds and cinema pushes your greens. Now with display HDR, the details kind of seem off and the overall image does look a bit weird. And game HDRI is good, but the skin tones don't really look all that good to me. Now if you ask me, I like cinema HDRI amongst these three modes. This is because cinema HDRI provides smooth skin tones and overall the picture just looks much better. So I would definitely recommend you to switch it to cinema HDRI. It's just the best. Okay, so now let's talk about the on-screen display of this monitor. It packs a really detailed OSD and is controlled by these 4 buttons down over here. Now the first button among these is your microphone mute button. Now the second button is for switching between the different inputs, and the third one is a nipple which you can use for controlling the OSD. The fourth one over here is a power button, and I think this is a bit problematic. Now you see, while I was gaming on this monitor, I couldn't see these 4 buttons anywhere, so I had to just feel them. In that case, when I was trying to reach the nipple for controlling the OSD, I accidentally hit the power button a lot of times, and that just turn the monitor off. I don't understand why BenQ opted for this weird arrangement of buttons, and this definitely is a big drawback. Now let's talk about the OSD. It is flush, it has all of the options you need to customize the settings and features of this monitor, and I think it is a really good and organized one. You have a good menu that gives an overview of all of the features, and you can just use the nipple to go through them and set the settings like you want. Now this monitor also comes with a media control remote which can trigger the OSD, and you can control all of the settings from this one. This remote can come handy if you're using the monitor like, let's say, an entertainment panel and it's mounted on the wall or something. But in my unit, the remote was faulty and I couldn't get it to work. So I really couldn't test out this media remote feature and have nothing to share about it. Okay, so this brings me to the speakers and the mic of this monitor. Now, inbuilt speakers in a computer monitor, what impression does that create? Mediocre speakers that are only there to fill up your room with some noise. In fact, I never recommend anyone to use the inbuilt speakers in a monitor. But this BenQ Mobiuz monitor comes in and changes everything that I used to think about computer monitors. This is a 2.1 setup. You get two tweeters in the two corners of the soundbar and a subwoofer here at the top. BenQ has teamed up with Revolo to design the sound system of this monitor, which kind of hints at the fact that the company is not taking audio jokingly. Here, listen to them yourself. For the past couple of weeks with this monitor, I have replaced my headphones and my speakers for the inbuilt audio system in this monitor. It is really impressive and might be the best speaker I own. I'm not going to lie. Like, if you ask me, I am ready to pay $800 simply because of how good the speakers on this monitor is. Now, the monitor also comes with an onboard microphone. This is no simple itty-bitty microphone. It is an AI-powered noise cancelling microphone that can intelligently detect all of the background noise and remove it for a clean and crisp audio. So right now I have a loud cooler running in the background, and this is the audio from the onboard microphone on the camera. And now let me quickly switch over to the microphone on the BenQ monitor. Okay, so as you can hear, it is not super great in terms of quality, but I mean, there is really no background noise whatsoever. So I mean, this microphone is only good for like online meetings and stuff like that, but don't expect it to perform like a studio quality microphone or anything like that. Now, the quality of the microphone is not super good, and I think it's only good for video calls and online meetings and all of that stuff. But this microphone is definitely a nice to have with any monitor. So that was all for the monitor. Now let's answer the chief question. Should you buy the BenQ Mobiuz EX2710U? Now this thing is not cheap. It's $800 and it easily ranks among the costliest IPS LCDs out there. In India, this thing goes for about 60,000 rupees, which is again a very hefty price. Now for the features and the quality that you get with this monitor, I think that it is a solid run for the cash. Like, the viewing experience is not up to the par with some OLEDs, but again, this thing is way cheaper than some of the cheapest OLEDs out in the market. Now this monitor blew me away with its features and wonderful image quality. The biggest thing about this monitor is probably the speakers on this thing. I would recommend that you get this thing if you have the cash and are looking for a high-end 4K monitor in the market, but believe me, everyone doesn't need this thing. It is only for enthusiasts who want to try 4K high refresh rate gaming. The average user could probably get away with a 4K 60Hz panel and just have a great experience with it. It's going to cost way less than this thing. Now, okay, so that's it for this video. If you want to watch the RTX 4090 review, a thing which can play 4K games at 144 FPS, that will be over here, and don't forget to hit a like and subscribe.